For all things outdoors, listen to the father of two, the Jesus-loving TV show hosting hairy, true-blood American redneck, Ben Cole.
And listen to the outdoor filming, chef cooking, chocolate milk drinking, John Weissmuller. And we are
Rooted Podcast. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Rooted Podcast. Today, we have a very, very special guest. You may have seen this gentleman on your TV on various shows and networks throughout the years. He is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to trapping and some baseball. We'll get into that as well. The founder of North American Trapper, Mr. Alan Probst. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me on, guys.
Oh man, thank you for coming on. I mean, absolutely. I know Ben and I dove into the world of trapping here. Ben's been doing it a little longer than I have. I pretty much just started, but we are excited to dive in. Speaking of just starting, I read that you did your first trapping at 7 years old. Can you kind of take me through what that was and how all that came about?
Yeah, I mean, my father, my grandfather, my uncles, they all trapped. And this was back in the 70s, the mid to late 70s when, a red fox, a beaver was $50, a mink was $40, a muskrat was $10, $12, $15.
Right.
And you had an actual opportunity to, supplement your income back then. Back in the 70s, you could buy a brand new truck for $4,000, $4,500. So if you went out and caught, 50, 70 fox, you could buy yourself a brand new truck. And there were a lot of guys that were good trappers back in that day that really supplemented their income, and they would go out and actually make more in 2 to 3 months trapping than they would in their regular job for the whole year. So that was not why my parent, my dad, or my uncle, or my grandfather was doing it. Yes, the money was nice and whatever. My dad was a school teacher by nature, but he would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, go check his traps. And I just, from the age of, I can remember, 4 years old, 5 years old, I would ride around with him and check his traps, and my grandfather would be in the truck, and we would go check. And, right down here in the bottom, I'm actually sitting in his chair this morning. My dad passed away a year ago, and I kept his place. I come here and relax, and within a quarter of a mile as the crow flies from where I sit right now, maybe a half a mile is where I caught my first muskrat. And it was just, from that time forward, been just ate up with trapping and completely engulfed in it. I wrote a book when I was 13. I can't find the damn thing. I wish I could. It was called Beaver Trapping at Its Best. And I illustrated it and just completely ate up with it. And, here we are, almost 50 years later. And it's what I do for my livelihood. So it was a parent doing what they were doing, and me wanting to follow in that, footsteps, kind of like what a lot of kids do. They want to be like their dad or whatever. And that's, kind of where I learned how to do a lot of what I do is through my father, who was just an unbelievable master outdoorsman all the way around. If you were a trout and you were in a pocket of water and he was fishing that stream, you might want to watch out because he was probably going to catch it. So he was just an all-around outdoorsman.
That's awesome.
And that's kind of how it started. Just wanted to be like him, and that was a really great time to grow up, especially in a small community. So there wasn't much else to do besides hunt and trap and fish where I grew up. I grew up in a town with about 1,200 people. So.
Oh wow!
There's still 1,200 people here, so that tells you where we're at.
Absolutely. I started trapping a couple years ago, and I have genuinely enjoyed it. Caught my first fox, a couple of coyotes, and the only thing that I haven't been able to catch yet is a bobcat. And I want one so bad because the crazy thing is we have so many of them on the farm that I'm trapping, and I can't figure out how to do it. I've tried everything that I know, which is limited knowledge, obviously. And, there's a specific field, they come across it all the time. So I try to double set on the road. I've tried putting a stump out in the middle of the field, tucking some stuff under that. And, I'm just kind of lost in what to do next. I caught some possums and raccoons in those traps, but the bobcats are tough for me.
Well, the biggest thing I can tell you, and we were talking earlier before we started about the NWTF convention. I had somebody come up to me at the NWTF this year, and he showed me a picture of a bobcat on a trail cam, and he's like, "Man, I just can't catch him. I can't." I said, "Let me tell you something. Put your set in the ground there. If you're on target with bobcats, most generally, and there's those one or two. There's always that animal that's that one specific animal that is just tough to catch at times. But bobcats in general, most of the bobcats that I'm catching in Illinois or Pennsylvania or a lot of different places, they're just plain old incidentals because I got to let them all go. I'm not targeting bobcat at all. But they will work a set pretty good usually if you're in the area where they are. If you put your game cameras up and you find where they're going back and forth on your camera, where you get them going both ways, put your set there and let it marinate. And I promise you, they're going to work the set over time. I think you're just, if you've caught coyote, you can catch a bobcat.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, you are doing things correctly. And what I mean by that, you're bedding your trap correctly. You've obviously made decent sets to where the coyote has worked the set to where he doesn't feel cornered, or you're making good sets. You're catching fox, you're catching coyote. If you're catching fox and you're catching coyote, you're going to catch a bobcat too. It's going to happen. So
Awesome.
I would say don't get too, over analyzing. I guess that's what I want to say. Don't overanalyze what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing. If you know where there's a cat and he's in that area, make your sets accordingly, and you're going to get your opportunity. So I think that's the one thing I would tell you is just kind of you're going to be all right, especially if you're catching the other critters.
That's awesome to hear because I am fascinated by trapping in general, but I tell you, when I caught that first coyote and that first fox, it was so exhilarating. I was pumped beyond measure to walk up to a trap and see that in there. And, I started trapping just solely for the turkeys. I just wanted to take care of the baby turkeys and give them a good place to live and try to reduce the raccoon population. And, well, we did that a little bit, and then still trapping all the time for raccoons. And I usually pull my coyote traps this time of year, but I don't know if I should or not. But I like those winter pelts personally.
I actually agree with you on that. I'm a firm believer when it comes to we do teach and show people how to handle the nest raiders and the catch the coyotes and the foxes and all that. And we are out there showing people how to do that. And we want people to go out there and basically we say be the steward of your own land. And that's what you're doing. You're being the steward of your own land. You're kind of controlling the predators, allowing some of those prey species to thrive a little bit more, but you're not out there to exterminate the predators either. You need a full balanced ecosystem.
Right.
And the one thing you just said, we are very adamant about. When we go catch something, we want to get some value out of that animal. And the fur market is abysmal at this point, as everybody knows. But you can tan those pelts. They make great gifts. They can be great decor on your wall. They can be something that's a great conversation piece. It's something that, yes, we want to take these animals out of the equation, but we want to be catching these animals when they have a value and when they're worth something, so that we're not doing it just to do it. So I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but that was a good point that you just made, and I figured I would add to that. But when they're prime and in the winter, and people were like, well, we want to catch them right before brooding season. Well, I can tell you right now, if you catch a raccoon in November, his ass ain't there in brooding season. So you've caught him before the next brooding season, or the
Right.
female before the next brooding season. You're getting a
Mm-hmm.
value out of it if you put your time in. It comes down to priorities at that time. If you want to be out in your deer stand all day, not trapping, and then you're going to try and rush it right before brooding season in the spring, well, then that's your prerogative. That's your, what you want to do on your land. But we recommend, and I recommend personally, you want to be catching those animals, just like you said, when they have a value.
Yeah, that's one thing we did, and John, I'm sure you've got plenty to add to that as well.
Oh, I'm just sitting here enjoying it. You keep talking about the fur market. I mean, I guess. So obviously, at one point in life in America, it was just like you said. You can make more off of trapping and selling versus just working a regular 9 to 5, whatever that looks like. Why is the fur market the way? Like, what made it just be so terrible? Just life in general, culture things. Like, what's going on?
There's a multitude of different factors there. Culture, that's one of the biggest. Um, you start thinking, PETA and these
Mm.
organizations that play on half truths and a lot of innuendos really popped up there in the 80s. They've always been around, but PETA and the Humane Society, and they've done a much better job of, and they have more money. It comes down to money a lot of times. They have more money for advertising. They have more money to, tug at the heartstrings. I mean, you can't watch any
Mm-hmm.
TV, especially late night TV, um, where you don't hear Sarah McLaughlin, you know, whining in the background, and you have a bunch of pictures of dogs and cats and different things that they're tugging on heartstrings. And don't get me wrong, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to see any animals. Like as a trapper, I mean, this is so multifaceted. I could talk on this for the next hour. I'm trying to zone it down for you.
Oh, hey, talk
Uh,
away.
you just have a multitude of different factors, as I said, that have created a just a lower market. The North American Fur Auctions is out of business. The old Hudson Bay Company that was around for over 300 years, 350 years. The Hudson
Mm.
Bay Company, which was NAFA in Toronto, the North American Fur Auctions, out of business. They went out of business a couple of years ago. Just shut their doors.
Mm.
There's really
Wow.
only one auction house. That's Fur Harvesters now out of Thunder Bay. And the sale they just had was not good on the pricing, but then you have in Copenhagen where all the mink and all of that was. They used COVID. They went in there and exterminated tens of millions of mink under the guise of spreading COVID and disease. That market has just been obliterated. That whole industry was obliterated. You got
Mm.
our three biggest buyers of raw fur: China, Russia, and Ukraine. Two of them are in a war. And that
Mm-hmm.
just adds to it. There's so many different factors. Now, will it come back? Yes, I think there'll be little ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
But me personally, I do not see a boom like in the 70s where, when you look back, if a $70 Red Fox in 1978 or 1979, 1980, $70 Red Fox at that time is a $250, $300 Red Fox today when you start figuring
Mm-hmm.
in inflation.
Sure.
So, can you imagine if Red Fox were selling for $300, how many people would be out there trapping trying to catch these Red
Yeah.
Fox?
Absolutely.
So there's those factors. There's the societal factor of people's mindsets have just changed. There's when I was growing up in the 70s, if 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 somebody was a trapper, and I remember this. My father, the reputation of a trapper was, he's a great outdoorsman. That's what it was. It
Mm.
wasn't. It wasn't. Oh, he's a trapper. Which today, if people know
Yeah.
you're a trapper, they look at you like you're a heathen, and it's just
Ev-
not the case. I love animals more than any anti, like because I respect
Yeah,
them and I know
exactly.
their habits and I know all about the animal, the quarry that I'm going after. So
Mm.
you look at the differences of how the mindsets has changed, and I mean, we could, we're not going to get, I'm not going to get into politics here, but you got men competing in women's sports, and the attitudes of and the mindsets of people are just completely off base to where in my mind what's right is now considered wrong and what's wrong
Mm-hmm.
is now considered right. And
No, definitely.
it's not just the fur industry, it's the whole world in general. So when you're dealing with animals and the amount of people that are against, not just trapping, and we are the low hanging fruit, in the whole grand scheme of the outdoor scale. But you got people going into supermarkets, throwing mud and spray painting the meat, for people in the
Right.
supermarket. So
Mm-hmm.
there's just a major, major change in those attitudes and those mindsets that it's really hard to. It's really hard when you're in our community, the trapping community, where we don't have the money to be running $1 million commercials and tens
Sure.
of millions of dollars of ad campaigns and things like that, to actually get that information to the public. And, like I said, I could talk an hour on that and I got a little long winded there, but that's kind
Nothing
of
wrong with it.
everything in a nutshell, if that makes any sense of what I just threw together there with my
No,
ADD flying.
no, it definitely does. And so let me ask you this then. Um, what would you tell people the incentive to trapping is today? Because obviously it's not making money, So like for me, it's saving turkeys. I mean, is it just that? Is it saving other animals? Is it the healthy ecosystem? I mean, is that what you try to, sell people on why you should trap?
That's actually that's a really good question. I have not sold personally. I have not
Hmm.
sold a pelt for over a decade. Anything
Gotcha.
I've caught has been tanned. It's been skinned out, tanned. It's been made into whether it's a mountain man hat or a Daniel Boone hat or a you know.
Hmm.
We try and get more value and do different things with our furs out of it. I give them as gifts. Like if I trap uh, a farm up the road and I catch a couple coons there, I'm getting them tanned, and I'm at the end of the year, I'm taking them. Hey, here's one of the coons I caught off of your property, and they're all people. They're always like, "Wow, that's really cool. That's awesome. Thank you very much."
Sure.
Um, as far as why I trap because it's inherently in me, that one on one with
Hmm.
nature, that one on one with that animal, and anybody out there that is starting out and I want to catch a coyote. And, just you said earlier, that first coyote, you're just like, wow, this is so
Yeah.
awesome. And it's, it's that feeling. It's the memories. It's the memories that I have with my father can never be taken away from me, from
Mm.
all the times that I was out there and saw, I can remember tons of different things like him catching two beaver in one set. And I'm very fortunate to be able to have a lot of that on film through our filming processes over the last 20 years. So when I need to, I can put in a DVD or I can go to my YouTube channel and I can watch. I'm very fortunate with that. But the memories of it, creating the memories, uh, the getting the kids involved, seeing their fascination with it. Just like you said, you can help your turkeys. It's
Mhm.
there's a lot of different factors that you can use, and I don't get offended. like we mentioned baseball earlier. I played baseball for 10 years. And, when you're in a locker room with 25 basically just alpha dirt balls, you get a thick skin.
Yeah.
I don't get offended, but I get annoyed when people say, well, I'm not trapping this year because they're not worth anything. That annoys me more than any other statement in the trapping industry. I'm not trapping this year because they're not worth anything, because I'm the exact opposite. I don't trap for value of the fur. I trap for the memories. I trap for the experiences. And here, I've been trapping almost 50 years, and there's not one day that I go out there and I do something and not learn something. Whether it's the animal showed me something new, whether it's I made a mistake and I learned something new, whether it's like, you know what, that looks kind of neat there. I'm going to try that this time. And then the next day I go back and I catch something and I learn something new. So it's an educational experience. And I would put, the outdoorsman, sportsman's overall knowledge. You learn so much trapping that will help you as a hunter, that will even help you as a fisherman. You just start to learn about animal behaviors way more than you do just sitting in a deer stand or trying to work some pigs through a bottom the knowledge that you gain is that in and of itself is a factor to trap, just the actual knowledge that you gain as a sportsman. But overall, you can do a lot of different things. And you mentioned helping your turkeys, all your ground nesting birds, whether it's grouse, duck, quail, all of them.
Sure.
The memories, the being able to get things tanned and give as gifts, just all of those things are good reasons to go out there and trap, way above and beyond what the value of the actual animal is.
So, when you talk about tanning, do you have any tips on what somebody that's just starting and getting something tanned, do you send it off and let somebody tan it, or do you tan it yourself?
Me personally, I don't have the time or the energy to tan pelts. Tanning pelts is, yes, I've done that before. Tanning pelts is once you do that, it's another form of accomplishment. I send all of my fur away. There's a bunch of different tanneries out there. Moyle Mink and Tannery out west. You got Sleepy Creek in Iowa. You got, Tabari was in New Jersey. They just went out of business, but there's a new guy in New Jersey. There's other people in Western Pennsylvania. You can find a tannery. If you want it done correctly in a really nice pelt, I would say send it away. But I also am not against people doing their own tanning. And you can buy a tanning solution. You soften the hide. The thing about tanning, the better tan that you get is the more you break the hide. So the more you put into rubbing it on the back of a chair and breaking that hide to make it that leather supple and soft, then that's the better tan that you get. But I send all of it away. It's it's not overly pricey, but if you send them say you catch a raccoon or two and you send them away, you're probably going to pay $20-$22 each to get them tanned. But you're going to get back a really nice shaved tan pelt that's going to last for 100 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
As I said, you can hang them on the wall. You can hang them. Actually, turn the camera. There's my dad's otter pelt. You can see hanging right there.
Oh wow.
That's been there about 20 years.
That's awesome.
And that's where it sits. If I turn, you can see a bobcat he caught there, and there's a gray fox there. So those are gonna hang there for as long as I'm around until I'm in the dirt, and they'll be fine. So, but they're all professionally.
Oh, okay. Well, that answered the question.
Do they also
for me.
Absolutely. Do they also do those places make like the hats and stuff, or do you got to send it somewhere else to do that? Just curious.
No, a lot of those places don't make they're more just tanneries. They're going to tan your fur. But there's a lot of places out there that'll make the hats for you. A simple Google search these days,
Sure.
you're going to be able to send your pelts. You're going to be able to tell them what you want done, and they're going to have a lot of examples on their websites that are going to allow you to get made what you want. There's people out there making beer koozies and stuff now.
Oh, wow.
We make hair scrunchies for women. Like I
Nice.
said, the mountain man hats, pillbox hats, slippers, mittens, gloves, blankets. All those different things, and you'll be able to find people that'll be able to make those simple Google searches more than you probably want to know.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness. So I kind of want to deep dive into the actual trapping part of this. Now listen, I obviously don't know a lot of things out there in the trapping world. I'm sure there are, as many different traps out there. I'm sure there's, thousands of them. But what I guess to you, I'm sure it depends on the animal, obviously. But what is your favorite trap slash setup?
My favorite trap, if God came down to me and said, Alan, you can only use one trap for the rest of your life. And for an all-around trap, I would probably go with a 1.5 double jaw. The 1.5 double jaw is a trap that has like a little piece that's welded underneath. If you get an animal in that, they are not getting out of. It's strong enough. If you get, now it's a smaller trap, but if you get a coyote, bobcat, a beaver, a fox, a raccoon, a possum, a skunk, anything, if they step in that double jaw does not allow them to work the trap, they're going to be there when you get there the next morning. If I'm now that's a trap that that I don't have to use when I'm trapping coyote, so I don't use that when I'm trapping coyote. But if somebody came to me and said you can only use one trap,
Right.
I'm going to choose the 1.5 double jaw. That's what I'm going to choose.
Interesting.
Because of that double jaw. I know if an animal steps in that, he's going to be there wearing that bracelet when I show up. So,
nice.
If I'm trapping coyote, I'm predominantly setting a 550 offset. Now, that's going to give me a better area, 5.5 inches. It beds really tight because of the cast jaws. So I'm using the Duke 550 pretty much all of my canine sets, and that would be fox, coyote, and bobcat sets. They are not a good coon trap because they are offset. So if I'm setting in now Duke just came out with their new 450. The 450 has been on the market for years under MB. Duke is I use Duke, so they just came out with 450. I will be using their 450 offset and their full jaw in Pennsylvania, where you have a lot more chance of catching raccoons than if you're on the plains of South Dakota or a place like that. So, but if somebody's just getting into trapping, I would recommend to start with the Duke Dog Proof. The Dog Proof trap is going to be the easiest trap that somebody can use and get a kid involved. And you go out there, you find some coon tracks, you set the trap, and you're going to have some coons. You're moving up. You want to move up just like you do as a hunter. You go from shooting your first deer to wanting to try and get one with a bow. And then you go to trying to get a bigger one. And that same thing in trapping. You catch a raccoon. Well, now you want to catch a fox. And then you try and catch fox. Now I want to catch coyote. So I would use a bigger trap from that. So you move from the dog proof. You start with, get somebody involved, just getting around, catch some coons. You're helping the environment. You're catching some critters. The 550 is going to work for you predominantly in all of those predator situations. Out west, they like the 650. It's a little bigger version of that Pro Series 550. that's a good trap. But I only use about like, and if somebody goes to my website, the North American Trapper premise of what we are trying to show people is that we're not there to take your money. Yes, we got to make a living and we got to sell stuff and we got to make sales, but we're not inundating you with thousands of choices. If you go to the website, we carry the 110 and the 330 in the body gripper. The 110 is for muskrats and mink, and the 330 is for beaver. Now, you can use 160s and 220s and 280s and a lot of different things around the country. We don't carry them because we don't use them. If you look at our coil spring and other traps, we carry the 1.5 double jaw, which I just said is my favorite trap. I'm obviously going to carry that. That's a perfect trap for all of your water sets, whether you're trapping for muskrat, mink, raccoon, all of those. That's going to work for you for those three critters. We also carry now the 450, which is just hit the website, but we carry the 550, the 650, and we do carry the 850, even though I don't use it here in the East. I have used it when we trapped wolves in the West. It's a great wolf trap. It's a bigger version of that Pro Series. So we do carry those three. And then we carry the number 2 dogless, which is a great fox trap for here in Pennsylvania. And we carry the number 4, which is what we use for beaver. So we only carry about 6, 7, 8 different SKUs when there's 35, 40 different traps that we could literally put on there to sell people. But we don't use them. We don't promote them. We don't use them. Now, are they bad traps? No. Somebody maybe wants to use the number 1 long spring for muskrats. More power to you. We don't do it, so we don't sell it. So when somebody comes to the North American Trapper website, or they watch our YouTube channel and they watch us do something on YouTube or TV or wherever we're showing how to do things, when they come to the website, that's all we're carrying. And that's kind of the premise of what I wanted to do, is that we only carry what we use. So if you watch what we're doing, you're able to come. You don't have to weed through, 492 products to find the one that we were talking about. It's going to be very simple because we're only carrying what we use. But when it comes down to traps, the 1/2 double jaw would be my favorite all-around trap. If you're going for raccoons, I would start with the dog proof. If you're going for coyotes, I would go with the 550. And if you have a chance to catch coyote, fox, bobcat in a region, the 550 or the new 450 is going to work for you. And that's going to handle 99% of every one of your trapping situations out there.
Wow. That's awesome. I've got you talk about the dog proof, and Ben probably remembers this because at the turkey show, we both had a booth, and I come walking back from your booth, and I'm carrying this starter kit. And Ben is like, "What in the world did you done go out and spend your hard-earned money on?
How'd you buy? That's a big box."
You're like, "What is going on?" I said, "Dude," I'm not gonna lie to you, Ben. I really don't know what I just bought, but it sounded cool. And I tossed like, "Man, it's some traps, and it's got a long wire and a thing you put in the ground. I don't really know what I'm doing, but." I said, "Look, the man said it was like fishing with a Zebco, and I can fish pretty good."
Guy was down there showing you snake oil.
That's right. So I said, "You know what, man? I'm just gonna try it." And dude, sure enough, man, I don't know nothing about nothing. I just know I have some raccoons on camera every once in a while, and I threw a couple traps out there and caught, I don't know, a dozen raccoons and a couple possums, whatever. Which to me is awesome, and hopefully this spring I see the fruits of that labor. But I'll tell you, one thing that I was kind of just taken aback by was, I just didn't realize how many raccoons were in my woods. Because, as someone with cameras, and a lot of people get caught up and, oh my goodness, if it's not on camera, it's not alive kind of thing. They do that with deer a lot. Oh my goodness, this deer's just dead. And then it comes back 2 years later. It was never gone. It just never walked in front of your camera, right? So I kind of felt like the same way with raccoons. I've only ever had the most like a 4 at once on my camera, and not consistently. But man, I was catching them just like bang, bang, bang. I was just getting them, and I was just so surprised of how many. Number one, how many raccoons there were, and how easy for someone who had no idea what they were really doing. Just put that dog proof out, and I put the. I believe it's called Coon Buster. Is that what the bait's
Yeah,
called?
we
Yeah.
we have our coonbuster bait, which is soaked in crawfish. They cannot walk by that trap without working it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The thing is, I guess we didn't lie to you. We told you it was going to be easy.
Absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
the biggest thing with those dog proofs, you just make sure they're staked. Obviously, we provide the stakes in the kits,
Yeah.
and you connect the stake to it, and you put that dog proof in the ground where they have to bump their nose on it, and they are not walking by it without working that trap. And, I don't know how much property you're working on, but like you said,
Mhm.
you saw 3 or 4 on camera. You go into an area, people really don't know how many little critters they have running around their
It's
property.
crazy.
And you took out 10, 12 raccoons, and the studies show that each raccoon is going to, now it's not all turkey nests, and I
Mhm.
want to make that clear, because I think a lot of times people hear us throw some numbers out and they're like, well, that's crazy, that's not possible. Well, there's a lot of ground nesting birds, and
Correct.
it's whether it's quail, duck, pheasant, geese, wherever you're at in the country, you're going to have not just that, but songbirds too. But they say on average, each raccoon is going to take anywhere from 1 to 1.5 to 2 ground nesting bird nests per brooding season. Now, like I
Wow.
said, that's not all turkeys, but some of them are going to be turkeys.
Mhm. Sure.
And each raccoon that you took out there is 10, 12, bigger dozen, whatever. Each one of them was going to predate, and they're actually the newer studies coming out are actually showing that the raccoons are actually searching out, hunting for ground bird nests as a food
Mm.
source. They're actually showing that they're actually hunting them out. So
Hmm.
because there's so many raccoons, the fur there's the one. Not to go backwards, but let's go back to the fur market.
Sure.
Raccoons are averaging $2, $3. Nobody's out there trapping them because their mindset is, well, they're not worth anything. We're not trapping them. So now you have this explosion of predators, and they got to eat. The predators have to eat. So the thing that gets lost in the shuffle is the other species in that ecosystem. Yeah, they're exploding, but they're exploding and they're taking a lot of these out. And the one thing that we fail to talk about more than, or not enough sometimes, is that nest, yes, they raid the nest or whatever, but they're usually, a lot of times, that female or that hen turkey isn't leaving that nest, and they're getting that +1. So they're not only getting the
Mm.
clutch, they're getting the +1. They're taking that
Wow.
turkey out of the equation as well. And
Huh.
with the advent of game cameras over the way people are using them, you can't literally get on Facebook. At least I can't, with the 5,000 mutual friends that are in the same industry. You can't get on Facebook in this brooding season in the last month or so, or 2 months, and not see somebody sharing something that they saw on TikTok or YouTube or wherever, where a coyote at a nest destroys a nest, and he's got the hen in the mouth.
Wow.
Bobcat at the
I didn't
nest.
realize that.
A fox at the nest taking the hen. Raccoon at the nest taking the hen. So you're not just losing that clutch, or that clutch that's coming, you're losing the hen too, because she stays there and fights to
Wow.
death to protect her young. So
Sure.
the more you can take these out of the equation, the better they're going to have a chance to survive. And on the other flip side of that, I always have to say, we have to understand it's not about extermination, it's about conservation.
Mm-hmm.
This is about conservation. This isn't about going out there and taking every raccoon that we can and wiping them out. No, we want raccoons, but we
Mhm.
want them in control on our property, so that everything, there's going to be raccoon that gets a nest here and there. That's fine. That's nature. But we can't have a 50-acre parcel or a 100-acre parcel or a 500-acre parcel that's got 5, 6, nests and hens on it, and 500 raccoons running around that property,
Right.
they're gonna find every one of them nests. So
Sure.
there's a balance there, and then part of that balance is controlling the predators and releasing some of that. And every coyote that they've done studies. I don't know if it's completely. I've seen the meme, and you've probably seen the meme where they have one coyote and they have 19 fawns, and they say that a coyote den will average anywhere 17, 18, 19 fawns when they're raising their pups. They'll go out and get that many fawns. And I think,
Golly.
when you start to look at the predation factor of it, we as stewards of the land need to help out, which trapping has always done. Trapping has always helped out because there were a lot of people out there trapping because it had a value as far as the fur market. When you look
Hmm.
at it now, that fur market's down, so you don't have as many trappers out there. And now that you have the exploding populations, that's the more pressure on the prey species. So it's kind of up to us as landowners, leasers, and things of that nature to do these little things to help control that population so we can have those other species.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. That's one of the only reasons that I trap, other than the fun, is to help be a good steward of the farm that we're on and to give the critters the best opportunity possible. And, because we're trying to create an environment that's good for everything, not just the deer, not just the turkeys. We want everything to thrive. And that is going to include some predators. It's part of it.
Absolutely.
They're part of the ecosystem. It's what makes things go around, because if you don't have predators, you have an overpopulation of other game, which leads to all kind of trouble for them. So it is good to have the checks and balances that were put in place by the creator himself for this stuff to keep going. But I do agree with what you said about, you don't want 5,000 raccoons running around on your property either, which
Yep.
poses a huge threat to your turkey population and all that. And I told John a while back, I thought, how do we get trapping back? How do we educate people on getting them back in the woods to do the trapping and to get them back on board? There's got to be something that we can do to elevate that process to where more people are back out in the woods doing just that.
Yeah, we've sat around and we try, and whether it's through a podcast like this, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on
Oh
this
man.
stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or to giving a seminar at the NWTF. If we can just get one or two people to, what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. We are getting back to this. We got away from it because you know what it's like running a business. You start doing things and you're like, yeah, and then something else takes your attention or whatever. But we've done. If you've seen the infomercial that we ran a couple years ago, the I'm a Trapper. We brought people. We just called people and said, hey, you want to be part of this? Hi, I'm Joe Smith and I'm a trapper.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Bill Brown and I'm a trapper. And we're going to get back to that I'm a trapper stuff. But also, when you look at trapping as a whole, trapping season pretty much anywhere in the country is going to be post Thanksgiving and go through the end of February. Now, the seasons are different in different states. It may be February 15th. It may so, but it's going to be that after Thanksgiving, when the animals are prime, we talk about we want to catch them when they're prime.
Mm-hmm.
After Thanksgiving through February. Well, unless you're in South Carolina and can shoot 50 deer, or you're somewhere where you can go deer hunting every day because you got 50 tags, or somewhere like that, there's really not a lot of outdoor sports going on at that time. Here in Pennsylvania, people like to ice fish. How they couldn't even ice fish last year. We didn't have enough ice. So what trapping can do for you, above and beyond that one-on-one with nature, above and beyond that going out there and going after the coyote or the bobcat or whatever, it can extend your hunting season. And that's the one thing that we've, in the last 6 months or whatever, we started to really, it's resonated with us, and we're going to start to try and teach people, hey, this extends your hunting season. Extend your hunting season, because that's exactly what it does. It extends your hunting season. Instead of sitting in the house eating hot dogs and watching football, yeah, you can eat hot dogs and watch football, but if you watch that one big game, but it will extend your hunting season. It'll give you something to do that you can get out there and go back into nature. Instead of just looking at it from, well, I'm a deer hunter or whatever. Well, I'm a deer hunter, and then I turn into a trapper because it extends my hunting season. And that's kind of how we're that may work, it may not, but if, like I said, if we get one or two people every time we talk about this to do it,
I love it.
That's one or two more people that get back into it.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I do too. I have to agree with that. I was just gonna say,
I know that Ben and I would help.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say, John. That we would be on board for that. You just let us know how we can help you, because we are all for the trapping.
Well, we as a community, well, not we, us. You're in that community now. We really, as trappers, I'm a traditionalist, and I like teaching that tradition. It's not about the money. It's not about the value of the pelt. It's about Jeremiah Johnson. It's about Jedediah Smith. It's about Coulter. It's about all those different guys that, I think romantically, I'd like to think that, man, I wish I'd have grown up in the 1800s and been able to go out and participate in the beaver wars. And as I get older and I stub my toe into the bed and I'm laying on the ground, I'm thinking, well, maybe I wasn't cut out to go out there and fight grizzly bear in 10 degree below zero. But romantically in my mind,
right.
I love the tradition that mountain man, nobody's got a hold of me. Screw the government, screw everybody else. I'm a mountain man, and I'm a free trapper, and that's one of the lines in that movie. I'm a free trapper, and I think a lot of guys in the community that I see at the conventions and stuff, we all have that same mindset, because that's the value, that's the mindset that you get when you're out there going one-on-one with nature, and you're the only one around, and you're slinging some stuff in the water, and you're slicking up a bank, or you look over your shoulder because you hear something and it's a deer watching you. That you can't get that feeling sitting on a couch. You got to be out in nature, and that's the value of it. And when people get out there and start to experience it, like you guys have to a certain extent, it's a fire that lights inside you, and it gets in your blood. And
that's awesome.
And it is awesome. Like going up to that trap every day and looking around the corner, or driving around the corner, waiting for that animal bouncing. And some days you don't, nothing in it today. And then some days you turn around that corner and there's a coyote spinning in the trap. That's what it's all about. So that's the feeling that I want people to get.
Yeah, Christmas every day. That's what I said about trapping. It's Christmas every day.
Yep.
It is pretty incredible. So, Alan, as we kind of wrap this up, I'll ask you a few last questions. We really appreciate your time today.
I get you get as much time as you need. I don't have to get my kid's got a big golf tournament this weekend. He's a pretty accomplished golfer, and he's still in bed. I don't have to wake him up till 10:30. So you got my time as much as you need.
Awesome. Well, I just want to ask
for not signing on the other day.
Oh, that's all right. So it's a lot life is life, my friend. It does
Mhm.
happen.
It does.
So obviously, you've been trapping for a while. Do you have, and I'm sure you do, any crazy trapping stories? Like you got something that just right off the top of your head? Like what's one of the craziest things that you've seen or experienced in the
Man,
trapping world?
wow, there are a lot of these. There's so many. There's just so. I already got 3 or 4 that popped in my head. There's so many. Uh, back. This would have probably been when I first got my driver's license. I was 16, middle 80s, 85, 86. There was this little pond in Jersey Shore, which is the next town over, and when I got my driver's license, I kind of went around and stole a lot of my dad's spots. Which he's like, "Geez, you beat me there again." And there was this pond, and I walked around the pond, and when you're looking for muskrats in a pond, if the hole's being used a lot, it's going to have a real bare bottom, it's going to be rubbed out. There won't be any leaves, no dirt, no dust, and it's nice and smooth. And it'll usually have a little milky water in it because that's what's being used. And I'm like, oh, there's rats in there, and I said I'm gonna put 2 because there's a longer channel coming out of the bank, and I put one trap in uh, the far end of the channel where it went down into the pond, and then I was putting the trap in the water at the hole, and a rat came flying out of the hole into the trap when I had the trap went off when I had it in my hand and I caught a rat when I was setting the trap.
How
Oh,
So
how cool!
that was pretty cool. And I was like, yeah, I was young back then. I was 16. Yeah, I was 15 or 16. I was 16 driving. Then, that same time, I don't know, maybe a year before, a year after, whatever. It would have been then or a year after because I would have been driving. I was by myself. Right down as a crow flies, about halfway to where I caught my first muskrat. There's a ditch that goes under the road, a little culvert, and you like setting the culverts. And I go in there and I make my set, and I get done making my set right along the abutment, right along the wall. Have it, in there, and I was probably using the number 1 back then, a Victor number 1. And I heard something down in the brush, and I'm like, well, that's a rabbit. I'm going to go down there and kick him out because, you hear something, you want to go investigate. And I go down, and it's a mink, and he jumps out, and he runs, and I watch him. This would have been so perfect, but I watch him run up the little slough right along that bridge above it, and he jumps over my trap. He just missed my trap.
Oh,
I almost saw that mink uh, get caught
Wow.
in that trap.
Mm.
And so there are 2 really cool things. Watching my dad, like when I make a beaver set, I put 1 trap. We used to use the number 3 Duke round jaw. Now I use the number 4. But, it goes on a slide wire, and I put 1 trap in the scent mound and the block out in the water. Well, my dad makes the set with 2 traps. He's got like 1 and 2. And we go in and we make sets the one day, and we go in the next day, and I didn't walk around the other side of the pond. My dad did, made his set on the other side, and I'm like, I checked mine, and I don't have anything, so I'm not putting my hip boots on. And he walks over, and he's like, and he looks, and he pulls up 2. He caught 2 beaver in the same set. So
Oh,
one
wow.
came in, got one come in, and bit 2. He caught both adults in the same set the same night.
Mm.
that's awesome.
I remember a lot of different times, just a lot of those type of scenarios. I remember my dad taking a fox out of the trap. I was young. I mean, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, maybe 10. And I'm with him, and he caught a gray fox up on this hill, and we walk up, and he's checking the trap, and he takes it out of the trap, and he shoots it to put it out of its misery. And he's over there, and I'm standing there looking at the fox, and I'm 10 years old. I'm probably poking it with a stick, whatever I was doing. And he's making his set, and I'll be damned if that fox doesn't jump up and go running up the hill.
Oh my goodness.
I can still picture my dad walling up that hill going after that fox, and he ended up catching up to it and finally got it and brought it back down. But
Wow.
there's hundreds and hundreds of those type of stories and memories. There's just a multitude of those that I could sit here and like I said, I could talk for the next hour on those type of things. But I remember sitting in a swamp down here. I sat down there as a crow flies, maybe 3 miles, and I set a channel. And it's a real thick swamp with the real thick vegetation back in the day. It's not as thick now because they don't have the runoff of the horse manure and they use the different, chemicals. So these swamps and little ditches around here aren't as muskrat friendly. And we don't have a lot of muskrats around here now. If you find muskrats now, it's like, wow, you hit the lottery. But I sat in the channel and I walk up the channel, and I'm weeding through the weeds to put another 110 in, and I hear snap, and I turn around, and there's a muskrat in the trap I just set, and it's not coming up; it's actually going down. So I only walk 4 or 5 feet. I'm like, where the hell did he come from? I must have almost stepped right on him, and he went below me, and I caught him right there. And um, there's a lot of those stories that are unique, for sure. The first coyote I ever caught, the first bobcat, those really the bobcat. Like, if you guys want to see who my father was, the clip on YouTube where he catches his first bobcat is priceless. He's 70 something, 70 years old at the time or whatever, and he's excited like he's a 5-year-old kid, and they're the memories that matter. And that goes back to the same thing we were talking about earlier. Why should somebody trap? Well, you should trap when you create memories like that, because those memories don't happen if you're not out in the field.
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. In fact, what you were just talking about, the fox jumping up and running off. Uh, one of my buddies, I trap with him every year. We do a trappers weekend at his farm, and it's a bunch of old guys get together, and we go and set a bunch of traps for raccoons, foxes, coyotes, bobcats, everything. I remember specifically that he was telling, or right before I got there, I guess it was a couple years ago, but he he had just caught a gray fox, used the choker, whatever it is, and then was driving down the trail, looks back, and that fox is halfway jumped out of the bed of the truck and gone.
Yeah, those things. Nothing's perfect,
Mm-mm.
and that's a memory you guys are gonna have forever.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have that
Absolutely.
memory forever.
Oh yeah, and
That's pretty.
me and my son actually we got a little 6 acres here at our house, and me and him went out and set our trap here. We got a set, and uh, first night caught a coyote. Second night, or 2 nights later, caught another one, and I call it Teddy's set because that's he was out there with me. He's just barely 3 years old, so he was out there.
I bet you love that.
Oh, he did. He loved every second of it. He was into everything while we were out there. It was awesome. But I'm just thankful that I had these opportunities over the years, and trapping really did that for me. And I appreciate you taking the time today to be on with us, and it's just been an awesome opportunity, and would love to do it again too.
Absolutely, I appreciate. Like I said earlier, I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk. And if anybody out there has any questions, we're more than happy to help you get started in your own processes. Everything that we do is under North American Trapper. Our website's NorthAmericanTrapper.com. Our YouTube is North American Trapper TV. The Facebook page is North American Trapper. Our North American Trapper YouTube page, we have a beginner course. Like, we have 35, 40, I believe 40 different clips that actually show people exactly what they need to do if they're just looking to get into it. And we try and keep it very simple, very matter of fact, to where you're not inundated with 1,000 different things. No, if you do this and you set your trap like this and you are on sign, I can promise you that you're going to catch animals. And as you are well aware, you guys are just basically starting out. It's not that hard. It just comes down to putting the time in, and you're going to get out of it what you put into it. The more effort you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it, the more you're going to catch. And that's the one thing that we feel we're doing a good job of, to where over the years, for 50 years ago, you'd be hard pressed to get any trapper to tell you anything because the value of it, the secrecy. Nowadays, not just my channel, but there are a lot of different people out there that there's a wealth of information and knowledge out there. The only thing I would say is when you're watching it, uh, take everything in. If you learn something from this person, you learn something from me, you make it your own, and then you have your own little system that works for you. And we're just here. If anybody has any questions, our email address is info@northamericantrapper.com. So, but all of our stuff is available on the website, available on YouTube. And if anybody has any questions, we'll be more than happy to help them get started.
Folks, you heard it here first, NorthAmericanTrapper.com. Head over there, check out their website, and dive into trapping. Get started. You'll love it. Take it from me. Take it from John. We love being in the outdoors. We love trapping, and, we love what we're doing for conservation. And with that, folks, don't forget to head over to rootedtelevision.com for all things Rooted Television and Rooted Podcast. Shirts, hats, merch, everything is there. And with that, the redneck is out.
Thank you.
For all things Rooted Podcast and Rooted Television, and I mean hats, shirts, hoodies, and other merch, check out our friends at CH Lone Star Pro and the link that is in our description.